Hello everybody and welcome to our first RTA Changes update. So this is the first of a series of 6 sessions that we'll be running over the next 6 weeks, talking about the raft of changes that have happened in the residential tenancies under the Residential Tenancies Act. This week we're starting off and we've invited a special guest, Daniel from Detector Inspector.
Hello everyone.
So we're starting off this week talking a little bit about the safety compliance piece, which I think is probably the most daunting for most. So when it comes to the regular and ongoing maintenance of the property, so this is around the smoke alarms, the electrical and the gas. I'm also joined by Jane from our property management department.
Hi everyone.
Jane, and who is our in-house expert on this. The way we've decided as a business to address these there's significant number of changes, is making sure that we don't try and all know everything all at once. We've got our in-office experts that are specialising on certain subject area. So Jane will obviously specialise in the safety side, and then I'll be accompanied by the rest of the property managers as well on a weekly basis that will talk about their specialisation. But I suppose we'll start off by going to Daniel. So just as I mentioned, Daniel's come here from Detector Inspector today to talk to us a little bit about what Detector Inspector do and the offering that they've put together, and how I suppose we've partnered with Detector Inspector amongst others that are offering similar service, and I suppose the reason why we've chosen Detector Inspector to work with.
Yeah, beautiful, and obviously thank you for partnering with us. And fundamentally, as a business, there's a bit of an introduction. So as a company, we started 16 years ago. Our first portion of our business was smoke alarms. However, as regulations changed, we implemented our gas service 5 years ago, and we're actually the first in the market to offer an electrical service as we saw the need for all the rental providers and for agencies to find the best possible solution to ensure that the properties were covered, compliant, and everything was just as simple as possible for the rental providers. So just sort of talking about what we're doing, so we call it Safer Homes. So Safer Homes is there to ensure that the property is safe for the renter and that everything is compliant through the new regulations. And I'll sort of go through what those changes are with the smoke, electrical and gas service on the next slide. So just to begin, so from March 29th, 2021, it's now mandatory for smoke alarms, gas servicing and electrical safety services to be done. So what does it actually mean? So for the smoke alarm service, it's required that there's smoke alarm testing every 12 months. All smoke alarms are correctly installed and in working condition, and the battery for each smoke alarm needs to be replaced as required. Further to this, there's actually a lot of information that needs to be provided on a smoke alarm service. So we need to ensure we're providing no tamper instructions to any new renter, manufacturing details on each smoke alarm, operational manuals, as well as test instructions. So when we go out there and we conduct a service in the property, we'll be able to get all of those relevant details and conduct the service in terms of the regulations. Moving forward to the gas service, so the regulations stipulate that there must be a gas service check that's done every 2 years. It has to be done by a Type A qualified registered gas fitter that is following a wide range of fact sheets to ensure that everything is being done by the regulations. What's actually included is all gas installations and fittings must be tested, including your heaters, fireplaces, cooktops and water heaters as well. And then the electrical service. So the electrical service is a really new service, and it actually follows quite a large standard, which is AS 3019/2007, which basically needs to be followed in accordance with Section 2, which is like a 10 to 12 page document of everything that needs to be conducted through this check. So how do we actually take care of it? Well, in terms of the regulations, an electrical check has to be done every 2 years. It must be carried out by a registered electrician. And what's actually included is a check on all the electrical installations and fittings, and appliances must be tested. An example of this would be switchboards, safety switches, power points, and light switches as well. But in terms of all these regulations, we've got to be able to build reports all in accordance with the necessary standards, and they have to be done by qualified tradespeople to ensure the compliance of these properties.
So just a question on that.
Yeah.
You know, we have that question come up quite often from people, particularly, well, previously where it was just the smoke alarms, it wasn't obviously the gas and electrical.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, oh, it's fine, I'll go and change the battery myself once every 12 months, or you know, I'll change the smoke alarm over. What do these new regulations mean for those landlords that were previously doing that and were comfortable with doing that?
Yes, so it's a really good question. So in terms of a smoke alarm service, you're right, it's not actually as simple as just changing the battery in a smoke alarm. There's a lot of testing that needs to be done to ensure that, you know, the smoke alarms are operational and working conditions. So part of that would be cleaning the smoke alarm with any dust and debris. So it's got to be vacuumed. We've got to be running decibel tests to ensure the volume and pitch of the smoke alarm is loud enough to for the renter to wake them up in the case of an incident. As mentioned, yes, of course, the battery does need to be changed. It's got to be tested, so we've got to ensure that the smoke alarm's operational. We're pressing the test button. It's loud enough to wake up the occupant. But in terms of the actual changes in the regulations, a lot of it's about the information that needs to be provided. So you're going to be providing information such as the last service date that it was done. As I mentioned, all the instructional manuals and all the no tamper instructions actually need to be provided to every new renter. So they've really expanded the amount of information that needs to be involved and provided when actually conducting a smoke alarm service.
Yeah, so I suppose there is a lot more to it than just changing a battery.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. There's actually quite a fair bit of work that needs to be obviously involved in running a smoke alarm service.
No, that's great. Great.
So moving into what does our Safer Homes package mean? What have we actually built over the last 18 months to ensure that we actually could provide as many inclusions for the rental provider as possible, so that everything's predictable, reliable, and that they're covered from the day that they actually sign up to the package. So in terms of inclusions, we looked around and we did a lot of market research within the industry and spoke to a lot of rental providers to find out, you know, where are their expenses and how can we minimize that for them? So in terms of our actual service, so by actually signing up to our Safer Homes package, we're actually offering a 10% plus savings on all the costs of the individual services. And we've basically been able to put that into like a very smooth, predictable, equal annual payments. Free call-outs. So free call-outs are massive. One of the most common ones is relighting a pilot light, and that's actually included in our package. We'll go out free of charge to be able to assist relighting the pilot light. But also in terms of our free call-outs, it's actually for any faults in any checked items that we service. So when we look at the electrical service and we're doing light switches and power points, and we're checking the fuses and circuit breakers, then in the case, let's say there's an issue like the power goes out or there's an issue with the power point, rather than paying the cost of an electrician to go out there, we actually cover that free of charge. We can go out there and we can obviously ascertain and problem solve the issue. Another part is free parts. So at the moment, when we're going out and we're doing a lot of the service, we're actually finding a lot of common parts actually need to be replaced. So basically what's actually covered under that is things like your power points, light switches, safety switches, and even thermocouples. So we find thermocouples is really common and can generally cost over $150 just to replace, whilst we're actually covering that in our Safer Homes package. And as well as your very standard light switches, power points, if they're damaged, instead of sending a quotation to the rental provider, which is an extra cost for them, we actually want to get the property compliance on site, so it's safe for the tenant, and then the owners know they're paying for a package and all of that's actually included. And just very lastly,
do you have a question on thermocouples?
Yes.
Yeah,
thermocouples is a big one.
Yeah, originally I was asking like, will it be fixed during the checks, right? Because that's, I think our rental providers would have that question, and you actually was covering the electrical part.
Yeah.
Like, what about the gas part? It is harder, right?
Yeah, so with thermocouples, as I said, it's something that we find quite common, and rather than, you know, quoting to get that fixed and then going back out to the property and fixing the thermocouple, we're actually going to include that and get it done on the spot. So our gas fitters will actually be able to like rectify the thermocouple or install it as need be to ensure that it's all in working condition.
That's right. Wow. And the thermocouple, just for those of you who don't know, and I suppose it's more kind of property manager speak, because you get to know what a thermocouple is without knowing, you know, without having previously known. They're those, I suppose, this is a non-technical term, but like a gas regulator within a hot water service. And typically when a hot water service stops working, short of completely failing, it's typically a thermocouple that needs to be replaced. So so that's good. And yeah, like you said, it's a saving probably about $150 each time around.
Exactly. In like 150, really the minimum, it could be in excess of getting that done. And not only is that the cost of just replacing a thermocouple, you've also got to pay somebody to go actually out there and pay the labour charges for them to get it done. So it's been a massive inclusion for all of our rental providers because we're able to actually cover that, replacement.
Do we know additional charge cover for the $150? You include that in the package?
It's all included. So rather than having to pay for the thermocouples to be replaced as well as the labour, we're just getting it done right on the spot.
That's good.
That's good. We're learning about this product as we're going along here as well. I know we've had initial discussions around how it would all work, but those additional benefits, they're really useful. So that's great. That's great. Perfect.
So moving into what we offer, we're offering a solution for every single property, and your property will fall into a specific plan based on that property. And essentially how that works is if your property has no gas appliances and it's just the electrical and smoke alarm service, then your annual fee will be $215 per year. You still have all the coverage of a 10% discount of all your individual services, free call outs, free parts as well. In the first year, there is a top-up fee, and a lot of rental providers ask, what does the top-up fee mean? Why is there a top-up fee? And the best way to explain that is why there is a top-up fee is that based on the regulations, in the first year of getting these services done, you actually need to conduct all three services. So what we do is that we go, well, some of the services being electrical and the gas services are biannual services, with the smoke alarm being every single year. And rather than providing owners with lumpy sums while we charge them a higher amount on every odd year, we've just basically broken that down into an annual fee that is predictable for the owner. It obviously breaks down the cost for them. So with the no gas appliance, it's an additional $135 just for the first year only. And then after that, it's just $215 a year. For properties that only have one gas appliance in the property, it's $325 per year with a $235 top-up fee, and that includes your full smoke alarm, electrical, and your gas service. And then for most properties, we'll fall into the 2+ gas appliance properties. So generally, that's as much as a gas line and a cooktop, but that can also be your hot water systems and ducted heatings and heater in the property. And we didn't want to go and charge rental providers for every additional gas appliance that they had. So we just basically built it into one price, and that is your 2+ gas appliance price. So for $379 every single year, you're fully covered, smoke alarms, gas and electrical. And in the first year, as per the top-up fee, it's $299, which is because you need to do smoke, electrical and gas in that first year.
Don't have minimum year that you have to join. You can just join or not, right? You don't have any constraint or.
Yeah, so the best thing about the package is once you sign up to the package, you are automatically covered. So let's say an example, one of your rental providers signs up to it and there's a fault in the property, such as an issue with an appliance or a pilot light needs to be relit. We will actually be able to go out there free of charge and go out and do it. Obviously, there's the cost of the service, but we're not going to be charging any labour, regardless if we've been out there or not. They are covered from day one, which is a massive benefit to a lot of rental providers, because we have actually had experiences where a rental provider has signed up and within 24 hours there's actually an issue in the property, and that actually falls under our services. So
you mean the moment they actually subscribed it, if something happened before you guys have the annual check, you already can go and fix and do whatever call out that they can. They're entitled to it.
They're fully entitled to it, 100%. So sign up, tomorrow, and 24 hours later, the pilot light's gone out. We're already covering that under our Safer Homes package because they've subscribed under one of our plans.
All right, that's good. Well, that was really useful. Thank you, Daniel. I think that gave us a really good picture and gave hopefully everybody watching a really good picture of your offering and how how it works and the reasons why we chose to work with Detector Inspector over the other competitors that are out there in the marketplace. Look, from our perspective, it wasn't only just the fact that all of those things get captured, but it was also the fact that it's a one simple, fixed price based on the property type. I think it makes the conversation a lot easier and a lot easier for people to understand when it comes to knowing how much it's going to cost them per year. Because I think people like the certainty of knowing what their costs are going to be going forward.
Yeah.
But also from your perspective and linking in with us, making sure that we've got a full register of all of those compliance checks, because obviously, tenants can request them, and within 7 days we need to produce the date of the last service.
That's right.
And if we're unable to demonstrate that with the compliance certificates as well, showing. And I believe that you need to show who the gas fitter was, who the electrician was, who actually went out to site to look at those things. If we can't produce that within 7 days, then technically we're in breach of the new.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. So as you mentioned, like a big part of our service is, not only is it for the rental providers where we're providing them with a plan for ongoing insurance and, it's predictable, reliable, and they know what to expect, but also for you and ensuring that the renters can receive everything that they get. So when we go out to a property, we use an application, we're taking photos of every step of the way. So even a rental provider, if they want to see these reports and they want to view everything that we've done, it's easily accessible for them. And then for the renters, like as they might request, and it's got to be provided to them within 7 days. We've already built up all of these compliance reports and they're ready to go straight away to the renter for them to view.
Great, that's really good, perfect. Well, we might now jump into, I suppose, each of those individual areas. So Jane and I will talk a little bit about what they mean for us, the way we're handling them within the business as well. But we might be throwing to you a little bit more, Daniel.
That's okay. I'm here to help.
Go through. So Jane, did you want to start off maybe talking a little bit about smoke alarms? Because obviously people know that we do smoke alarms, so for them to understand.
So first of all, thank you for Daniel's covering most of the parts, the most important parts. What exactly happened is, why do we have to engage a professional to do that, right? For safety compliance, we require certificate, we require records to be kept of last checks, we provide the dates to all the new renters in disclosure statement, and renters can actually request compliance certificate, which was mentioned by Daniel, and we actually have to provide it in 7 days. So this kind of requirements make sure that we have to have someone at our back, like what Daniel said, we have a full system to do that. So for the smoke alarm part, currently we have to make sure that what it means to us is that we have to make sure the smoke alarm is located correctly in where it should be in the property, and also what type of smoke alarm is actually put it in there. Most of our properties are apartments, so most of them are hardwired one. Hardwired one is required to be installed and tested by a qualified person. It's not really like the houses one that we can actually buy in Bunnings, maybe just input it and have battery. It's most likely with hardwire, it has to be checked and test every 12 months. So that is the smoke alarm part. As what Daniel mentioned, it is more complicated than how it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And even just the location of the smoke alarms as well, because we have that coming up quite often where there'll be a smoke alarm, say, located centrally in a corridor where there's 2 bedrooms, and it's actually not within the right distance of a particular bedroom, so therefore another one needs to be installed.
Yes, there's a lot of it. There's defined Australian standards, and even in relation to the building code of where a smoke alarm needs to be. So depending on the type of property, but if you're talking sort of about apartments, what we're sort of looking for is to ensure that the smoke alarm is 1.5 metres outside of every bedroom area, but it's actually 30 centimetres away from the corner junction of where the wall meets the ceiling. So when we're going out and we're doing our testing, we're actually ascertaining to make sure the smoke alarm's not in dead air space. So yeah, it's definitely important to ensure that the location of the smoke alarm is actually correct.
All right, good to know, because sometimes it's just only one smoke alarm in the living room, and sometimes it's like in each bedroom, so we always want them.
Yeah, of course.
And then just with smoke alarms, so obviously we've been having smoke alarm serviced by another company up until this point in time. How does that get handled with Detector Inspector? So say I'm an apartment owner in the CBD, I'm wanting to sign up for your $325 a year service because I've got a single gas appliance in the property, but I've just paid my $99 to the previous provider to get my smoke alarm service. How's that going to work this year?
Yeah, so what's actually been a massive benefit for a lot of rental providers who in the past may have been using somebody else to do it, what we've actually inbuilt into our system is basically a rebate. So how that works is that we'll calculate on, and it works on a day-to-day basis, of the unused portion of what has been done by a previous supplier, and then off the invoice, we'll actually provide that rebate back to the owner. So it will depend on how long ago the service was done for the particular rental provider, but we'll ensure we calculate that on a day-to-day basis and be able to provide that rebate back to the owner, so it's at no extra cost for them to sign up to one of our plans.
Does that work with new buildings as well? Because I have a few portfolio actually have like 12 months builder warranty. At the moment, they're not really subscribed in Smoke Alarm Australia, but if they're really into like that, then do they?
Yeah, 100%, because as I mentioned from the beginning, one of the key changes with the regulation with smoke alarms is ensuring that you had all of the necessary documentation surrounding the service. So if there's no manufacturing details on the smoke alarm, no tamper instructions, no test instructions available, then we actually need to engage that information. So we do that by attending the property, we're able to find the type, the model, and then we have all these reports already inbuilt into our system. So in the case of a new renter that enters into the property, that can automatically be passed on to the renter, so they have all that information at hand. And just on touching on that topic as well, so even with properties that are newly built, the regulations are stipulating many different requirements that are part of the Australian standards that need to be tested. And a lot of properties, even regardless of the newly built or not, do not actually have this in place. So that's why it's imperative that we are able to go out there and conduct the services to the point of the regulation, so that we have all of these compliance reports that are new and valid, to ensure the compliance of the property, but obviously to ensure the protection for the rental provider as well, so that they have all the reports on hand.
So that means, I suppose, from a user perspective, I've gone and purchased a brand new apartment. It settles tomorrow. I should be getting the complete service done on all of the appliances, gas, electrical, and smoke alarm from day one, not relying on the fact that the builders have just handed over.
100%.
You need to still get it. Okay.
100%. It still needs to, just because with the builders, they're not actually specifically doing the servicing of the appliances that are in the property. And what we're actually doing is that we are going in to do the servicing to certify the regulations of the particular services and all the appliances that are actually in the property.
Like, are they installed properly? Are they in the correct location? All those? Is that what they're checking?
Yeah, no. So it's not just checking to make sure that the appliances are in the right location. We're also testing all of the appliances. So, an example, if we're looking at things like heaters, one of the things that we're mainly testing for is to ensure there's no leaking of carbon monoxide. So we're doing a carbon monoxide test, we're doing a negative pressure test as well. One of the reasons why a gas service did start was because unfortunately there was 2 young kids, Chase and Tyler Robinson, who passed away due to carbon monoxide poisoning. And the reason that happened was because there was negative pressure in the property. It was actually sucking in all of the carbon monoxide into the property. So when we actually go out and we do a service, not only are we servicing the appliance, we're actually testing it to ensure that it is safe for the renter. So we're covering all of those elements.
That's useful. Okay. So then I suppose the next piece was around electrical. So I'll cover off a little bit on the electrical requirements. So I've had a look at the checklist, and to be honest, I don't understand half of the things that are being checked on there, but there's obviously a huge number of items that need to be checked as part of that Australian standard. Our, I suppose, property manager guide to that was to essentially walk into the property, to understand where the property was at, and kind of understand what to our own naked eye what looks like it needed work and attention, and that's where we're, I suppose, delivering that news to the rental provider, previously landlord. So things like old switchboards that have the old ceramic switches, they'll need to be upgraded. There is a little bit of lead time on them, but they'll need to be upgraded by March 2023. Cracked power points that look a bit faulty, light switches that have been pushed in. There's all these things that are visible to the naked eye that are going to be hazardous, that we're obviously informing the landlords about. But there is a little bit of lead time there in terms of getting major upgrade works done, like getting switchboards, compliant with safety switches and the like as well. So that's, I suppose, the electrical from our perspective anyway. But I think it's probably also important just to touch on what the rules and regulations say around having these safety checks done. There is no requirement, if you're in a fixed term lease with a tenant, there is no requirement to go and to sign up to a service like this and get these services done today. The regulation says that only when you're entering into a new lease or doing a lease renewal is when we need to then provide dates and have these services done, which it means that potentially there is a little bit of lead time there. We don't operate in a marketplace where there's 5-year tenancies in place. The majority of our tenancies are all 12 months. So I would expect that sometime between now and March next year, you would see 99% of our properties that we manage having signed up to the service that's applicable to their particular property. But you do have a little bit of lead time. So I suppose the message to our landlords or our rental providers today is prepare yourself for it, because your property manager will be having that discussion with you over the course of the next few months as either a tenant chooses to vacate or if you're doing a lease renewal, because we will be required to do that. And it's not a choice at that point in time. At that point in time, we actually will be forced into a position where we need to do it. So, which is why we're communicating to you now, so that way you're prepared to be able to take that on. So I think that's it from the electrical perspective. And then I think that the gas section, Jane, you wanted to run us through a little bit of detail there as well.
For the gas part, so make it easier for everyone. Most of our portfolio usually is the stove, like the kitchen stove, right? And then all other ones, maybe in townhouse or houses, will be the ducted heating, wall heater, or the hot water, or the fireplace even, right? Would be requiring that gas appliances check. Each appliances must be tested, is what Daniel said. If there is appliances that is deemed unsafe, actually it will be kept immediately. So based on your experience, if that really happened, how often, how soon can we actually send out technician to fix that?
Yeah, so from our experience, especially in the last year using our stats, having serviced over 12,000 properties already just under our electrical service, but we've been offering our gas service for over 5 years, we've actually found that 1 in every 10 properties will require further works to be done. So in terms of the way we action it is, of course, if there is an appliance that is seen to be unsafe, we will need to cut that off on site. And the reason we need to cut that off on site is obviously it's hazardous. But in terms of our Type A gas fitters, they actually have to do it, otherwise they can lose they will lose their license. In terms of our turnaround, so what we actually will do is that once we complete our service at the property, we will inform the property manager within half an hour of any urgent further works that need to be done, and we will actually be able to provide that quotation to the property manager within 3 hours. So all of our quotations are digital, so the property manager will provide that to the rental provider. They can go online, they'll see all the pictures and all the diagnostics as well as their quotation. They can simply accept it online. Once they accept it, for anything that's urgent, we generally have a 24-hour turnaround on getting out to the property and being able to either install a new appliance or be able to rectify what's there.
Yeah. And what would usually occur? I know I'm probably putting you on the spot a little bit here, but what would usually occur that would cause an appliance to be capped off?
Yeah, so one of the most common would probably be a crack in the heat exchange. So basically due to the change of winter and summer, and a lot of appliances will expand and then they'll come back in, and basically that can cause a bit of wear and tear on the appliance. And how that actually works, it will cause a crack. And once there's a crack in the appliance and it's actually leaking carbon monoxide, that's obviously a major worry, and that's where we need to cap off the appliance to ensure the safety of the renter, as well as ensuring that we are providing information on any further works that need to be done as per the stipulations of the regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, because after all, the tenant will only let us know if the stove is not working, right?
That's
It's
right.
only at the point that they can see something is not working, not that they can actually smell, like not really usually, right? Or they can notice anything.
Yeah, being, carbon monoxide, as they say, it's a silent killer. I'm sure you've heard it's been something that's been heavily advertised in the news and on the radio, is something that we're really stressing to get checked as soon as possible. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, it's silent. So, by having us going out there as soon as possible, we're able to ascertain all the appliances in the property, ensure if there is something that is a danger to the renter, we can get it, obviously we can get it fixed, and we can provide any reports of any further works that might need to be done inside of the property.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Probably a good time to mention, I should have mentioned it earlier, our Q&A is open, as it usually is, so please feel free to send through questions. I have noticed a couple of comments and questions coming through. Someone thanking us for the session, so thank you. It doesn't say who that is, but appreciate that. But a really good question here, and I was actually going to ask this one as well. So the use of technology, obviously very important to us in our business. We try and make sure that we're always at the forefront of the offering. Doing videos like this is probably a good example of that. But choosing yourselves to work with was a big factor in that, because I know your technology offering is certainly the best in the industry. So do you want to talk a little bit about how that works, and maybe even talk a little bit about how the communication with tenants to arrange times and things works as well?
Yeah, beautiful. So, it's our technology works in many different ways, and it has value for all parties, including, you as the agency, your rental providers, and for your renters. So talking about renters, so with renters, we need to organise, appointments with them to be able to conduct these services. And one of the actually the most brilliant part of tech that I've seen our company do is create an OAS. And what an OAS is, it's an optimal appointment scheduler. So essentially how that works is, what we built was that we're able to use Google Maps and actually track, the distance between properties, and we worked out an estimate on how long a particular service was, to the point that we actually have it at about I would say close to about a 98% strike rate. So essentially how that works is, prior to any appointment that we would have with the renter, rather than having to call up the renter and try to book something in, because one of the issues with that is sometimes the renter won't answer their phone and things can get delayed, we actually send them through an SMS, and on that SMS takes them through to a link, and that link is our OAS. So like booking a doctor's appointment, it takes them through to a configuration page where it has all the available days and times that were available to go in and schedule an appointment. The renter then can go choose a time that's suitable for them. It takes about 30 seconds to book in. They can put any additional notes. So they might put a note saying, can you please give me a call prior to coming to my property? And we can pick up on all of those notes. And once they submit it, property's all booked in. And we've found that sort of communication with renters has ensured a couple of things. It means that, the property falling overdue is less likely. And also just the renters, they're a lot more happy. And, rather than coming to you guys and having an issue within their property, they're actually a lot more comfortable. So, and also in terms of tech for, the rental providers, so performing such large services do require a lot of technology. And I did sort of touch on this before, where all of our servicing is quite automated. So when we go into a property and we need to conduct a service, we actually built a custom-built application that's used by all of our technicians. And the value to you guys and for your rental providers is that when we go out and we service a property, we actually follow very particular standards and lists that are provided to us, such as bodies like Energy Safe Victoria. So when we go in there, because obviously a rental provider wants to know that everything is being done to that quality. So we're taking pictures of every step of the way. The technician can't actually move forward to the next step until they've taken a picture, they've done that service. And once everything's been serviced and completed, then it takes that onto the next stage. And that next stage may happen in the case of further works. And how quickly we can relate from that service being completed until the end point of all those repairs happening is extremely streamlined for everyone involved, because at the end of the day, if the rental provider does take up further works and approves it, we need to get out there as soon as possible to get done. And then obviously for you guys as the agency, there's obviously many benefits, and I think for you as a whole, you want your renters and your rental providers to be looked after, and a big part is also the communication that we have with you guys. We really try to automate a lot of the processes, such as the renters details and all the compliance reports, and also updating you for where properties are at, so that you're always in the know. So you have access to view where the status of every single property, so that you're always aware of what's happening. And this way, if your rental providers have any questions, you can always assist them and give them the answer.
Also, will I get notification if the tenant actually confirm a date, or that your electrician actually going in, for example, or when the report is done? Will we actually get that? Yeah,
so basically on our portal, you can view when the property's been booked in, you can view all the compliance reports, you can view everything that has actually undertaken in our services in the property, and it's fully transparent for you as well. And even in terms of the compliance reports, the rental providers can as well get that same level of transparency, so they can view all the photos, they can view all the diagnostics and all the services that we've done, and even for any recommendations or further works, they can exactly see what the standard is, why we've done it, and what we need to do. So we're really transparent and try to provide as much information as possible. We don't want to be just walk in, walk out, and then here's a quotation. We're there to actually provide the right information and ensure that we are providing a end-to-end solution for everyone involved.
Which I think is really important, because I think from a use perspective from our end, one unlikely thing that happens, or one very regular thing that happens, would be that say a tenant moves in and they know they're right around having a date for the inspection, and knowing when the last inspection was, and if we're trying to schedule it once they've been in there, and they're proving, I suppose, difficult to allow us through because of whatever reason, we can actually see all of that information.
Yeah.
It's transparent to us, and then on the other side of it as well. We've had different systems in the past where tenants have been notified via email, or they've been people have tried to call them, but we've just found that the most effective way has been through text message. So it's really good to hear that that's the way they're being communicated with. It's fairly seamless. Most people tend to respond to text messages over most other forms of communication.
Yeah, of course.
And it's there on their phone. They can't accidentally delete it, or it can't happen in junk files or whatever it is there on their mobile. So,
I like that 100%. They have the flexibility that the tenant picking the date and time. So you have no excuse saying that you're not available, and if they have to cancel or change it, they can actually find another date as well. So it's like immediately you keep on making sure that that is attended. So I like that. So that's good.
Yeah, of course. And even in terms of our availability, so we're working, especially for our smoke alarm service, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and also on the weekends as well for our smoke alarm service. And then for our gas service, we can be there in the morning, we can be there at night, and even things, such as call outs. So let's say pilot light goes out, or there's any particular issue, we've actually got a direct contact number for all the renters, so they can basically contact straight to our administration team. We're able to assist them on the phone. If we need to go out there, we'll be able to go out there to rectify the issue. And that way, we're not trying to make it difficult for them. We're just trying to make things as simple as possible in terms of communication. So it goes all the way from just having the property booked until actually having all of that coverage that the renter will get by being on that particular Safer Homes package plan.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
Sorry, it's a little bit far away, but when you say that the renter can actually call in your service center, right? For example, urgent repair. If they have free call out times, right? If it's the fourth one, will the service center call me first before just asking, will the service center let me know because actually it is an additional cost, or will actually schedule right away? I'm just checking.
No, it's a good question. So the only time we'll need to come to you is, in example, if we actually need to carry out any further work. So whilst we're including as many of your common items as possible, there can be situation for things such as larger appliances that need to be replaced. So let's say there's a heater that's simply not working, or something like the hot water system, then we'll always bring that to your attention. In terms of the free call outs for all of the renters, we work between us and them. So they'll contact us and then we'll be able to go out there. So let's say the power's gone out, or there's an issue with a power point or a light switch, or there's an issue with the switchboard item, then we can just go out there, we'll be able to rectify that. And we're finding that that is probably one of the biggest savings for rental providers, because, it can be anywhere from, $100 to $200, and that's can happen, many times in a year. But once they're on our plan and, they're on our annual fee, they're getting ongoing indefinite coverage, obviously, until they're no longer on a plan. So it doesn't matter how many times we need to go out to the property, they're in the plan, they've got that coverage, and that's where it sort of provides them with that ongoing insurance predictability, as well as the compliance.
That's great. That's really good. Yeah. Did you have any more questions?
Oh,
I'm just having a look, see if there's any more that have come through. I don't think we've had any more. I think we've
because he probably just answer all 3 questions.
Yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot. I get that way.
No,
I get way too excited.
No, it's good. It's good. No, well, it's been a really informative session. One thing I did want to touch on, because our landlords are going to hear, well, they're not landlords anymore. They're going to hear it. They're going to hear it a lot over the next 5 sessions that are coming. The language change has been a big piece in this reform that's come through. And I know we're still getting used to it here in the office. I think I'll struggle to get rid of tenant and landlord in my vocabulary, but the correct terms are now actually renter and residential rental provider, or rental provider, which are replacing tenant and landlord. It is just terminology, but it is the terminology that's being used in the leases now and everything else. So just I suppose for our landlords out there that are listening to it for the first time and going, well, why do they keep calling us rental providers?
Yeah.
That is the reason. So it's a big language change amongst 130 other reforms that have happened as well. There's been some big changes that have happened around that too. Perfect. I don't think there's any more. You don't have any more questions?
I think you covered everything.
Good. I'm glad to have helped, and I'm here to support you and obviously support your rental providers as well. So if you have any questions and want to pass them on to me, happy to answer everything. Happy to help. Always there to support. Obviously, all of your clients, and your clients are our clients, and we're here to partner with you and your rental providers and your renters to obviously move them with these new rental regulation changes.
I appreciate it, Daniel. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us today and all the information that you provided.
Thanks for having me in.
We'll have a checklist sent out later on.
We will. Yes. So after the session, there will obviously be a recording, as we usually do. So that'll be sent around. We do have a checklist that we've developed in house that. And you'll get one of these for each of the sessions that we're doing essentially, but it is our internal cheat sheet I suppose you could call it, that really condenses the information within each of these regulation changes into something that's quite clear and concise. So that will be circulated after the call as well. But Jane, thank you very much. Also, your knowledge on this over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks has gone from zero to really to hero, and like everybody else in the office, but you are our expert on this. So encouraging any of our landlords or rental providers, if you've got any questions after the session, feel free to call through, either speaking to myself or to Jane, who's the expert on this area. So thank you very much, Jane, for joining us today. Next Thursday, we'll be joined by Hayley Tran from the property management team. So Hayley is our resident expert on minimum standards, which is another piece within the RTA changes. So we'll be doing it at the same time next Thursday. Similar sort of setup. We'll obviously be circulating and recording for those of you who can't watch it live, as well as the cheat sheet attached to it as well. But until then, thank you, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.